This is the Rebel Author Podcast, where we talk about books, business, and occasionally bad words. Hello, Rebels, and welcome to episode 91 of the Rebel Author Podcast. I'm super excited every single time I say the opening now. Last week I was excited, this week I'm excited. 91 episodes feels like a lot. This week I'm talking to Kristy Bromberg, and we have a fascinating discussion all about how to sell more books on Apple, how to write sexy scenes, and what it's really like having your book translated to film. Last week's question was, what was the last realisation you had? And we didn't get any responses this week, which I think is a first for a really long time. So I don't know if it was the question or something else. But yeah, no responses this week. Okay, so this week's question is, what is your focus for the last half of 2021? So we are smack bang in the middle of the year, and we've had 6 months and we've got 6 months left. So I want to know what your focus is for the last half of 2021. Is there something you want to achieve? Something specific you're going to do? I know that for me it is about publishing and releasing as much as possible in the last half. I feel like the first half of this year has been very much focused on, well, creation and also like shifting from massive overwhelm and approaching burnout to offloading and outsourcing lots of stuff. And yeah, I guess like in a way a sort of level up or a level to the side, I don't know. But yeah, so for me in the coming year, it is going to be all about publishing and releasing products, books, courses, audiobooks, and all of that good stuff. The book recommendation for the week this week is Writing and Marketing Systems by Elana Johnson. I binge read this in like maybe 2 sittings, but definitely in one day. It was fantastic. It was a bit painful to read as well. Lots of home truths. Now, I am not recommending this book for early writers, beginner writers. Let me explain. Elana is a 7-figure author who has a gigantic backlist of books. She's also although she does have some wide books, she is quite KU centric, I would say, in the book. Now, who is the book good for? The book is good for anybody who wants to establish a writing system, a writing process, or a marketing system or process. It's very good for those who have backlists, very good for those who would like to look to the future to see what it could be like, when you're later down in your career. But what I will say is there is a lot of information and she is a machine, and she does an awful lot. She's very clear in the book that not everybody has the life or the lifestyle that she has, and therefore, not everything that she does will work, and it's all about experimentation. She's very pro experimentation, but I just know if I had read that book when I was just starting, I'd have probably jacked it all in, because it is a lot. However, if you've published a few books, or you would like a look at the future, or you're just interested about creating consistency and systems and processes, then it's an excellent book for you. All right, the Rebel Diaries Anthology. This is the penultimate time you will hear me talk about this. The Rebel Anthology closes for submissions next week. So there is only a week left. I think it's only a week left. Time is a lie, because I'm recording this on the 18th of June. Yes, so by the time this goes live, it will be the 23rd of June. Yes, so there is only 1 week. If you are thinking about getting a story and submitting a story to the anthology, then you only have a week left to go. The word count is 2,500 to 7,500 words, plus or minus 10%. And the anthology, the call for stories, I'm going to tell you one last time, time is what happens when the villain wins? Are you sick of dashing debonaires? Are you fed up of being blinded by shining armour? Sometimes all a girl wants is a villain for a hero. The Rebel Diaries is looking for stories starring characters with a dubious shade of morals. We want characters who aren't afraid of getting what they want, causing a bit of chaos, dabbling in mischief and mayhem, and slathering on the sarcasm. We want stories that slip into the grey areas that are bulging with villains, deviants and rebels. We're after sassy tales littered with questionable morals and happy endings. For the villains, anyway. We are not looking for horror or gratuitous violence, but dark stories that are fun, light-hearted explorations of the characters usually hidden in obscurity. We actively encourage submissions from own voices, characters or authors with disabilities, or from underrepresented backgrounds, LGBTQ+, etc., etc. Yes, okay, so the deadline is the 30th of June, midnight on the 30th of June, so the end of the day on the 30th of June, but that's UK time. And you can find all of the information at sashablack.co.uk/rebel submissions, and I will include that link in the show notes. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but I would encourage you to check the FAQ first, which is on that page, and also there's another FAQ in the Facebook group as well. All right, so in personal update then, I am a fucking world away from where I was last week. I just want to say thank you. A few people reached out and asked if I was okay. And on the day of recording, I really wasn't okay. But now I am much, much better. So I have outsourced a lot of work to my amazing VA. And I am super grateful. I am still, I'll be completely honest, I'm still a bit worried about the financial side of doing that. But what I can tell you is that this week I have done more creative work in 1 week than I have done probably in 2 months. And that is literally because I have outsourced all of the admin, well, not all of it, but a lot of the admin. And so it freed up time and space for me to then create. You know, I've written new words, fresh words. I have been recording the Villains audiobook. I only have a couple of chapters left, so I'm going to do one of them today. I've got 2, I think I have 4 left, sorry. No, 3 left. Anyway, 1 today and a couple on Monday, and I'm pretty much done then. So then I'll be going into editing, so I'll be spending next week editing that. And I am also working on another non-fiction book, which I'm not ready to talk about yet. But yeah, so I'm going to be working on that. It's going to be a smaller book, and hopefully my goal is to get it out in January. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do that. I've got a number of conferences and things planned, and I'm really keen to get this masterclass or all the masterclass for side characters done. And then once I've done that one and I've sort of trialled it to see if it works and the format works, I'm then going to be doing them retrospectively for pros, villains, and then lastly heroes. Yeah, so it has been a big week. I've had so many personal realizations following on from the things that I said last week in the show, and I feel like I made a really big shift in the last week, a shift in my mindset, a shift in my focus, a shift in my productivity. And despite the fear of the financial pressure of outsourcing work, because I can see how productive I'm going to be, I'm going to stick with it and just see how this goes, because I think the result will be that I can deliver a lot more and finish a lot more projects. So in the long run, it will be worth it to do that. It's just nerve-wracking, that's all. So yeah, I think that is my personal update. What else? Okay, Rebel of the Week. Rebel of the Week this week is CJ Dainton. CJ says, "It was early in my final year of primary school, April the 1st to be exact. Normally a model student," that's easy for me to say, normally a model student, I found myself at school early with a small group of friends gossiping about the new school principal, who'd basically been strutting about annoying us all. Our teacher, who would constantly lose his temper every time the school office called him in, interrupting his lessons. Oh, sorry, and our teacher. This seemed to happen on a daily basis. He'd ignore the phone ringing as long as possible. Then he'd reach for his large fedora, which covered the telephone where it hung on the wall. He'd throw the hat on his desk with some force, often knocking things on the floor and swearing audibly. We couldn't figure out who had the worst temperament, our teacher or the new principal. I'm not sure what prompted my April Fool's prank to tape the phone handle to the wall hidden under his hat, but I was curious if he couldn't pick up the ringing phone, just how mad and sweary would he get? The classroom door was locked, but I managed to slide open a window and under a barrage of questions from my cowardly friends, found myself straddling the wide brick and metal windowsill. I told them not to be such fraidy cats and looked up to find the new stodgy principal standing right there, watching my burgeoning and short-lived criminal career. He asked me quietly why I was breaking into his school. At that point, the discomfort of the window frame was inspiring complete honesty. So I told him my whole plan, start to finish, ending with, "And that, sir, is why I'm breaking into your school." This is brilliant. "Go on then," he said, "and let me know if you need more tape." Oh, what a legend! I didn't wait for him to change his mind and scrambled inside. Once the prank was set up, he let me out the door, my dignity restored, adding, "So what time do you want me to call?" Yes, the new grumpy principal had a little rebel heart. We chose maths for the call. My teacher's least liked I love this story so much. And not only did it take my teacher forever to get the phone handle untaped from the wall when it rang, the swears were utterly spectacular. Oh my goodness me, I love this story so much. What a cracking rebellion. Oh, I love that your head teacher joined in with it and let you do it as well. What a bloody legend. Oh, that's proper made my day. Thank you so much for your rebel story. If you would like to be a rebel of the week, please do send in your story. It can be any kind of rebellion, big, small, or something in between. You can email your rebel story to rebelauthorpodcast@gmail.com or Instagram me at Sasha Black. One new patron today. Welcome and thank you to Herman Stuernagel. I hope I've said your name correctly, and I apologise if I haven't. A huge, gigantic thank you to all my existing patrons. I adore you guys. I love the Slack group. I love everybody in Patreon, all the comments that you leave, the support that you give. And our Poison and Prose sessions as well are fantastic. So thank you so much to everybody supporting the show. If you would like to support the show and get early access to all of the episodes as well as bonus content, you can from as little as $2 a month by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. Okay, enough bollocksing on from me. Let's get on with the episode. Hello and welcome to the Rebel Author Podcast. I am super excited for today's interview because I am joined by Kristy Bromberg.
Hello.
Hello. Kristy is a New York Times best-selling author under the name of K. Bromberg. She writes contemporary novels that contain a mixture of sweet, emotional, and a whole lot of sexy and a little bit of real. She likes to write strong heroines and damaged heroes who we love to hate but can't help to love. Oh, I literally love the sound of that. A mum of three, she plots her novels in between school runs and soccer practices, more often than not with her laptop in tow and her mind scattered in too many different directions. Since she published her first book on a whim in 2013, Kristy has sold over 1.5 million copies of her books across 16 different countries and has landed on the New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestseller lists over 30 times. Her Driven trilogy, Driven, Fueled, and Crashed, is currently being adapted for film by the streaming platform Passionflix, which I'm definitely going to ask you about later. So before we dive into sort of all the questions about Apple and marketing and all that good stuff, would you like to tell everyone a little bit about you? And I'm going to mute myself because my son is being like super loud upstairs.
You pretty much nailed it on the head reading the intro. My name's Kristy. I was a romance reader and was working full time, and I read 50 Shades of Grey, and I thought I can do this. And who knew that I could? And that was Driven, my first book that I published. And then a year later, I quit my job, and now this is my job, which is crazy and insane and like bizarre to me that I get to do, like write about people talking in my head all day long.
It is literally the best job ever. Like, we just make shit up all day long.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, people are like, oh, what do you do? I lie for a living. Like, they're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Most people don't even know what I do. It's funny. I'm like, the mom in the pickup line who no one knows. They just think I'm a stay-at-home mom and I don't do anything. Because there are some very judgmental people who, my kids can't play with your kids because you write sex. And then on the side, hey, what book is that you write?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, that book was amazing. Like, when's the next one out? Like, yeah, exactly. Amazing. Well, so we're here to talk a little bit about Apple. And I'm also going to ask you a few questions about sort of the sexy side of writing and romance and stuff, because I know I have a lot of writers who either write romance or they have like romance subplots. So we always need more tips for writing better romance. But let's start with Apple. So, like, broadly speaking, what are the best methods or tactics for selling more books on Apple?
So Apple is a process. I feel like it's something that you need to invest time in and expect about 6 to 12 months for a return. It's not, Amazon is the dominant one and Apple's really trying hard to make a run at them. Number one thing I would say is make sure your metadata is in order, especially if you're writing a series. There's a ton of functionality driven on Apple Books as far as push notifications to readers, personalization within the store, the end of the book experience, when you finish a book, that is governed by the metadata. So make sure that all of your information when you enter your book is there because that will help, in the long run. Another thing is they offer a first in free series or first in series free. They see a really high conversion rate from that to up to your second book. This is something I actually haven't done that I need to do. And I've been being told to do this for years, but from other authors. So if you have your first in series free, your conversion rate to your paid books is pretty high. Another thing is pre-orders. Pre-orders are big. You can set up your pre-orders within a year in advance. And if it's a year in advance and then you need more time, you just push the date out later. You can do a temporary cover if you don't have your cover yet. But it's very helpful to have numbers up and have links in the back of books so people can click through when, when I'm reading a book and I really like an author, I want to see what else they have. So if you have that in the back of your book, it's really nice to have those click-through links so that people can pre-order right then. And then, like I said in the beginning, time. You have to give it time because Apple is a little bit slower to build on the platform than, say, like an Amazon. But I also think they have more personal investment in the authors and get them to be successful.
So I loved one of the things you said about, concentrating on what you put in the back of your book. Is there, like, what kind of stuff do you put in? I mean, for me personally, it almost depends what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll be like, can you leave a review? And then other times, if I'm like doing a join my list drive, I will change it and put, join my list. But is there anything particular that you actually put into the back of your books that you find helpful?
This is something that I need to do. I need to actually go through all my books and change the backs of the book. But because I have a formatter who doesn't, I don't do them myself, that I'm like always like, oh, they're going to kill me. In the back of the books, like if it's a series, I'm always put links for the rest of the books in the series. Like, hey, if you really like this book, here's what's next. And then I don't think I've ever really asked for reviews, which is probably something I should do. But then I do like an about me with all my links on how to get in touch with me. But mostly I'm trying to drive to the next book in the series. for pre-order. So that's pretty much where my main focus. I mean, I'm looking for them to click.
Okay, cool. Are there like any specific advertising or promotional activities that work well for Apple? I know you mentioned the free first in series, but I just wondered if there was like anything else that works well.
So links to Apple and social media. It's pretty interesting how often authors leave off Apple links. They always have an Amazon link. They always have a Goodreads link, but they about 50% of the time, you don't see them actually linking to Apple. So to make sure when you do your post, you have Apple links, it sounds stupid, but it's amazing how many people, if they don't see a link, just ignore the post when they're an Apple book reader. BookBub ads is another thing. Apple has told me, and I'm not strong on BookBub as far as whenever I do ads, they don't work very well for me there. I don't know why. But Apple has informed me that when someone does a BookBub ad, the Apple books always perform very strongly. So that's another option. Targeting, when you're targeting your ads, target an iOS or an Apple device versus, because then it's going to go straight to Apple or iOS users. And then sometimes they do promotions, like, my agent will send out, hey, Apple's doing, sexy romance this month. Do you want to include a book? Or, they're doing sweet romance or, steamy, whatever. So, they do a lot of promotions, and usually you can get them if you have a rep there, or if you have an agent, or sometimes PR will know about it. And that's sometimes how I get links or at parts. Sorry, can't talk. That's how I get selected for those options.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that authors shouldn't forget about posting links is that Apple has an affiliate program as well. So you can earn affiliate income if you sign up to that. And it's literally as easy as just dumping your information in and then clicking the book that you want. So I always include links in my show notes. And another thing I should also say is that you should always say that you're including affiliate links so that people know what they're clicking. If they don't want to click it, they can just, copy and paste the name of the book. But yeah, so you can like order twice, you can earn twice.
Yeah.
Do you think there are like any common mistakes or like the authors do when trying to sell books on Apple? I don't know if you've learned any lessons yourself or like over the years or.
Yeah, I think because it is a slow build there, authors kind of get frustrated and they give up. But it is, I know it, some people do really well right off the bat, but I know others, they're just persistent with, applying for promotions, doing the ads, pushing the books, and then and I do know the metadata is really huge there. They do give out free Apple codes for books. I think like 150, well, I don't know, I haven't done it well, 150 for each book, and maybe it's down to 50 now, I'm not sure. But if you use the codes on your release, which I'm not a big fan of that personally, because I'm like, I want you to buy it. I don't want to give you the code for free, but it also pushes the book up in the metadata. So it's a catch-22. So they do that. I think not doing pre-orders with Apple is a big mistake. Pre-orders really do help, click someone when they're in the moment, or, grab someone when they're in the moment of clicking. And then, I think that's pretty much it. It's just more of a patience thing with Apple.
And so obviously you've mentioned that Apple likes pre-orders, and they have a lot of like functionality with the pre-order, like longer pre-orders, uploading without the cover and stuff. Do you have any tips or tricks as to how you can actually maximize the pre-order period, or like how you can leverage pre-orders to your benefit?
I think, like I said, links in the back of the book that, helps. Because, if you just finished, I have a 4-book or 5-book series out right now, and they're all standalones. But at the end of the first book, I say, oh, did you enjoy, this book? This brother, this sister's book is coming up next. And so I've been doing this for over a year with them, and the pre-orders built, it's not like a drastic increase daily, but, they trickle in every day. And when it comes to release, you're like, oh, I actually have decent pre-orders. Doing pre-orders allows you also to do it in pre-marketing efforts. On release day, how many books nowadays release on a Tuesday or Wednesday? A million. It used to be when I started, there was 100 books. Now there are so many books. your books kind of get lost in the fray. So if you're, pushing a book ahead of time and you see links, it's a little bit easier for a reader to see a link and be like, oh, I'm going to click it now, versus on release day when there's so many so many books, you get lost in it. And then sometimes Apple suggests that you do an exclusive pre-order with them. So you only do a pre-order for the first 2 or 3 weeks with them. And then you bring on board your other pre-order links. And that's just their way of trying to get more pre-orders through them, because people are excited about a book.
I didn't know. I would never have thought to do like an exclusive pre-order on just one.
Yeah, I've done an exclusive where I've done like 3 chapters to try and get people in.
Oh, so so is it they pre-order, send you proof of pre-order, and you send the chapters, or how does that work?
No, you just upload them in like your iTunes producer. So you just put them in there as like your, how you can do the sample.
Yeah.
Put it in the sample section. And then,
okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought to have done that. That's wicked. Okay, how can you find and reach readers on Apple? Do you think all genres sell well on Apple? Are there some genres, I don't know, like, are there, we all know that like crime and romance are the two big, or I should say thrillers, crime and sort of romance are the big ones, but I don't know, like, can everyone, can YA, can historical, I don't know, like, how do we find our readers? How do we find readers on Apple?
I'm not sure about the other genres because I only deal with romance. But a lot of times readers find, on BookBub, on Facebook, on Free Booksy or Bargain Books, like all the different sites. So if you do a promotion, make sure you add your links to it. I always look at the Apple charts in the main category charts to see what's currently popular with readers. And sometimes I target my ads on Facebook to those books, to readers of those books. And then they, as always, the free books to try and reel people in. And I have a trouble with the free book thing. I've always been like, why do I want to give my book away for free? But then if I do a BookBub, you could see that the link, the read through. So I have a hate love with the free book thing.
I also feel that way. Like when you sweat blood and tears and tantrums and a little bit of gin into your books, like it hurts to give it away for free, but also it does, there are lots of people who then do binge read series and stuff. So,
or they just put on their Kindle for 4 years and they never read it.
Well, there's also that as well. Yeah. And I suppose, it is, I haven't done the free thing yet, but I've got 2 to publish in the same series later this year, and so I'm like, well, it's time. Like I need to do the first one for free. It is hard. I don't wanna.
I have friends who used to not write, and it used to always be, well, just put it up for free. And now that they're like pretty successful, they're like, I would never put it for free. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Didn't you always tell me that I should have put a book up for free? It's a lot different when it's yours.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I wanted to ask you about romance as well. So in terms of like writing craft, what's the most important factor in creating romance, like that makes the reader cling to the page?
I think my main goal is to have the reader identify with the heroine, because most of our readers are female. I write first person. You want the reader to feel like they're standing in the room, that they're watching everything unfold. And I love some good tension. I like writing enemies to lovers. I like when there's some tension and some, I like him, but I'm not supposed to like him type of thing.
That's my favorite trope ever. Yeah. Like, without question.
That's fun. I like second chance romance because I don't have to build their back. I don't have to like make a reason why they like each other. Mm-hmm. So then you don't get accused of, they just jumped into bed right away. No, there's a history there, but there's something about enemies to lover. You can like pull so many strings and have so much tension and so many almost there kisses, that type of thing, which I think you're just like, oh my God, kiss her already.
Yeah, absolutely. There is like, it is the best and worst form of torture ever for a reader.
Yeah.
Like when you were just shipping the shit out of this, you know, couple, and you're like just desperate for them to bang or whatever, and you know, and then you're like, you know, and then I don't know, yeah, it's like the worst thing ever as well. Like they get a kiss at the end of book 1, but no sex till book 2. Like what? No, it's not fair.
I'd be crucified. I'd be crucified for that. I also think in my books, I like to put a little bit of real, like, and I know some people don't like that, but for me, I think that grounds the characters and grounds the reader to the characters, so that there's something that's not, it's just not, you know, like, oh, this fantasy world is like, oh, I can identify with that. Like, that's how my real life is, you know, and it makes you want to be close, you know.
What does that look like for some of your characters? Like have you got any examples of what real looks like?
Well, like I've written about Alzheimer's, I've written about breast cancer, I've written about illiteracy, I've written just something that makes the character seem real, or hard family situations that, you know, the hero's trying to be good and take care of their family even though they don't deserve it, and you see the turmoil and the tension and you just making characters real versus I am this, you know, $2 billion CEO and, you know, life doesn't touch me. Sometimes I think the characters need to be touched by life to make them realistic. And I know, you know, we read to escape, but I also think that allows you to root harder for them because you can understand something, you know, in their life that maybe you understand.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think that, like, again, nobody's ever really said that to me, but I think those characters where there is that little ounce of reality, or you know, I read a fantastic book last week, I think it was, from a debut author called Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. And it was about a Black woman who grew up predominantly in a white society and what that did to her identity. And it's like, it was that ounce of realism, because that is something that happens. And it was just, and it made me relate so much harder to the character and that sort of inner turmoil. So I love that advice. Okay, so one of the things that I think authors are very black and white on, either they love a sexy scene, I love writing a sexy scene, or they hate it and they're terrified of it, and so they sort of stay away. What advice have you got for writers who perhaps would like to try writing a sex scene but are nervous of doing so?
Okay, so I'm in the middle on that. I hate writing sex scenes, but I'm good at it. So for me, I think it's hard when you're first starting to deal with mechanics, emotion, situation. There's so many things you have to do when literally there's only like so many slots you can stick flap A into flap B. Like, let's be honest, you know, at some point you're like, okay, I've written 60 sex scenes in my book so far. Like, how am I going to switch this up? You know, you need to rely on emotions. You need to rely on senses, smell, texture, taste, touch. I think bringing, you know, dealing with your 5 senses is really important. It doesn't have to be long, but you have to make sure the emotion's there. Because if there's no emotions there, I'm going to skip the sex scene when I'm reading it. I want to know why they're having sex. I want there to be a purpose to it. Yeah, there's some good up against the wall quickies. Like, don't get me wrong. Those are hot and sexy. But it can't be what drives the book. The book has to be driven by the emotion or by their connection. So I'm not a good person to ask advice on, except for I think make sure there is a reason for the connection. Make sure you use your 5 senses. And make sure when you're done with the sex scene, whatever you wanted out of it is there. Does she, all of a sudden she realize, you know, have they had, you know, kind of, I don't even know how to say it, a hardcore whole book, and then all of a sudden this scene is slow and she realizes he loves her, or, you know, like maybe in all the other scenes she's questioning. You know, I write maybe about 2 to 3 scenes a book with some other, like, we know they're going to have it, but I'm not specific. So you need to make sure whatever your reasoning for having the scene is noticed at the end of the scene.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that emotion point is so crucial as well, because
there's a difference between erotica and romance. Erotica sex for sex. Romance is sex for a purpose to drive the character's relationship.
Yeah, and that's really what I was asking about. Because I mean, I write fantasy, but with romance subplots, like heavy romance subplots. All my books have some form of romance in, because I love. But yeah, even though I'm like dead on the inside, but whatever. Okay, so no, yeah. Let's just move on. Okay, so selfish question. What was it like having your books turned into like movies? And have you got any advice for authors wanting to pitch to film and TV agents?
The first part, it was crazy, surreal, just bizarre to watch like these characters come to life in front of you that have been in your head. And to be so involved in the process. Passionflix allowed me, between screenplay and on set and clothing and wardrobe and scenery, it was like, is this okay, Kristy? Is this okay, Kristy? I would get texts the days I wasn't on set. Kristy, is this okay? Here's a snippet of this scene. Are we good to say cut? That was bizarre to me to one, have them pick up the books, and then two, to have them want me to be as involved as I was, which I don't think that's normal with other, but because they're strictly adapting romance novels and they know these readers know these books inside and out, they were really allowed me to be hands-on, which was incredible. As far as pitching to film and TV agents, I don't know. They approached me. I didn't pitch to them. I know it's a complicated, long process that's always like, a couple of times I've even brought it up to my agent. She's like, it's not even worth it. Like, so she always says to me, someone's going to have to pick something up and fall in love with it and then drive it through agencies. So it's not something I've really pursued.
Okay. I just think it's fantastic. I've watched like some really good translations recently and also watched some really bad translations, and so I'm always curious what that process is like, how involved people are, what it feels like to see the thing that was in your head.
Yeah, that's surreal.
Yeah,
I've recently fallen in love with Outlander, which I haven't read the books. So I'm terrified to read the books because I'm like in love with what's on the screen. So I have to delve into them next.
So the most fascinating thing happened to me. I am one of these people who really, really loves the book more than the TV show generally, even when there are good, I can appreciate a good translation, but I will still love the book.
Yeah.
However, I almost feel like this is sacrilege to say this, but I don't know if you've heard of Leigh Bardugo, but she wrote Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone series, and Shadow and Bone is a new TV Netflix. I loved the books, but the TV show was insane, and cool. I almost. I know it's sacrilege to say. I know. I'm like, oh, but it was so good, and I've never anyway. So yeah, I find the whole process of that translation fascinating.
I think what's fascinating for me was when I got the script for Driven, the first time I'm thinking, you've left so much out, but in going through the process, they left out the internal monologue, which in a movie, my 3 pages of description in a book can be shown with one look.
Yeah.
Wow. You don't need that in a screenplay. So I, and like even in we filmed the last 2 November and December through COVID. It was weird to be on set and have Michael and Olivia, the actors, like arguing over, well, when I read the book, I thought it was supposed to be like this. And when I read the book, and then they would look at me and they're like, so which one, what is it? And then I'm thinking, oh crap, I wrote these 7 years ago. I forgot.
That's so funny you say that. I've been rereading my own books because I'm about to go and edit for the last time, the 3rd one. Seriously, check out the number of post-it notes because of how much shit I have forgotten out of my own book. It's insane. Sorry. And for listeners who can't, nobody can see because this is a podcast, but there's basically
there was lots of tabs.
Yeah, there was a lot of sticky tabs.
It was a rainbow.
Yeah. Okay, right. This is the Rebel Author podcast. So can you tell everyone about a time you unleashed your inner rebel?
It's funny. I am so modest and reserved. But I'll tell you something, when I go to book signings and I feel like I'm with my people who get me, I'm way different. Like in normal life, my husband's like, like, let's do something, be spontaneous. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah. But when I'm at a book signing, there's something about being with people who get you that I'm like a little crazier. I know that's really boring and I'm not rebellious at all. I was like the goody two-shoe girl who like didn't drink till she was of age, and God forbid did anything. So yeah, I'm boring. But I do think there's something to be said with when you're around people who you feel most comfortable with, which I feel like are authors and readers who get this world of ours that people don't get if they're on the outside of it. Even my husband's like, you're on your computer, like talking to people. I'm like, yeah, well, they're my friends. Like, yeah. I've never met them. Well, I don't have to like meet them face to face.
Yeah.
So I think that's my rebel. Like I remember I was at, there was a signing in Philadelphia and they had this big dance floor and no one was dancing. And so I was like literally going up to people, pulling them up, like, come on, let's go. And that's not me. But it was like, these are my peeps. We're good.
I love that that you said that about your husband. My wife was like that really at the start as well. She's just like, these are literally strangers. And I'm like, but they're not, because I've spoken to them like every day and like for years. Yeah, exactly.
They've never met them, but I know them.
Exactly. I like laugh and cackling on the inside because I've had that conversation so many times. It's insane. Yeah, if you are not an author, it is very hard to understand our weird, and there's a lot of weird for us. So, okay, tell everyone where they can find out more about you, your books, and anything else you would like to add.
You can find me pretty much anywhere on Apple Books, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble. I have to think, I'm dropped. Google Play, or kbromberg.com, or all the social media. I mean, I'm everywhere except for I'm figuring out TikTok. Be patient with me there.
Oh, you're braver than me. I took one look at TikTok and was like, no,
I told my 15-year-old wanted a new phone. And I said, well, start making TikToks for me.
Yeah, amazing. Oh man, mine's only 7. He can't. He doesn't get that yet.
Yeah, you're lucky. Savor that, please. Yeah. I have a 15, a 12, and a 10-year-old.
Wow, that is a lot of hormones in one house.
Way too many hormones in one house.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and of course, a gigantic thank you to all of the show's patrons. If you would like to get early access to all of the episodes, then you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. And of course, thank you to everyone listening. I'm Sasha Black. You are listening to K. Bromberg, and this was the Rebel Author Podcast. Next week's episode, I will be talking to Daniel Wilcox, my writing BFF and fellow co-host of the Next Level Authors podcast. Join us next week when we will be talking all about how to self-publish a book and mistakes to avoid and lessons that we have learnt and all of that good stuff. And there's lots of banter in that as well. Don't forget to tune in and subscribe on your podcatcher. And when you have a moment, please leave a review.